Let's start, and welcome back to the Tompkins Times podcast. Paul was going to be with us, but he's pulled his hamstring doing his hair in the pre-pod warm-up, so he couldn't make it with him.
Which bit of that is not correct?
And we've got Chris. You just heard Chris, and we've got Abhi, and we've got Bees. And I'm going to start the podcast with a message that Paul's just put on the board, actually, and it's that Jeff, one of the most, if not the most esteemed poster on TTT, is recovering from a second operation, and he. We're not going to rush him back. We hope to get Jeff on one day, but that might be a bit of a logistical nightmare. Yes. But he says, and I quote, "A combination of being exhausted and my mind not working. I forgot to wish you and everyone at TTT a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year." And I'm sure we all send the sentiments of
absolutely
positivity towards Jeff.
He's like the purveyor of ancient wisdom on the site, isn't he?
He certainly is.
And calm. Zen-like calm, yeah. Not shared by all.
Abhi is also a master of predicting transfers and knowing players that none of us have heard of and putting them in the transfer thread, and then suddenly we end up signing some of them.
Yeah. Any tips, Abhi? Any tips over the next few weeks? Now the transfer window is going to be open in a couple of weeks' time. Anybody you think might be arriving at Anfield?
Abhi?
I think Kabak from Schalke. I think most probably, like, everyone's talking about him. So I think everyone's saying we might need a defender. I don't think we might need one. But I think that's the strongest rumor. And like Schalke have had a really poor season. So I watched two of the last games. I mean, they have fired another coach. They have a new manager again. It's the whole season in disarray. They're like bottom of the Bundesliga. And nothing much to say about when you look at Kabak as well. It's the whole team is dysfunctional, and it's quite strange when you think about a potential target. It's the same thing when I saw Van Dijk play for Southampton. Like when they failed summer transfer happened, and then he was playing against us. We hammered them 4-1, 3-1, I think. And I looked at him and I thought, like, oh, Van Dijk was really poor. And then now you look at Kabak, it's the same thing. Like he looks out of sorts in a few times that I've seen. So I think, it would be a good, decent player. And I think like with Edwards, you can't go wrong. So that's the only player I think might come through. But I think, let's see, like if he fits the setup, if he's good enough, he'll make it through.
It's interesting because a similar thing happened with Jota. I watched us against Wolves with Jota a couple of times, and I wasn't taken at all with him. No, quite a few people posted that they were, but I just wasn't. It's weird, isn't it? It's how you interpret different players, especially when they're playing against Liverpool.
It's always hard to try and project what a player is like in a completely different setup, surrounded by different players, playing a different style and a different coach. It's almost impossible to kind of mentally make that leap, but of course Klopp and Edwards actually have that job to do. That's what they have to do, is to try and work that out. But all we see is what he looks like in that setup.
Absolutely. And Bees, you must have written some transfer target pieces in the past few weeks. You must know the names that are circulating. I know Chris definitely does, but have you picked out any in particular?
Well, it had gone a bit quiet in the last few weeks. I'm sure it'll ramp up again once we hit January 1st. But Kabak is obviously one of them. There's another guy at Schalke whose name escapes me. Is it Malik Thiaw or something like that?
Yeah, Malik Thiaw, yeah.
Yes, he's come up a lot as well, but he's quite young. So if he were to sign, I don't think he'd be going straight into the first team or anything like that. And I think Upamecano seems to have gone quiet. Links on him, at least as far as I can tell, which probably means we're signing him if the links have gone quiet. There's obviously quite a few names listed. I mean, I'm not convinced that we definitely need to buy anybody. The guys there are doing a good job. Obviously, Van Dijk and Gomez will return, and we know that Liverpool aren't sort of prone to rushing into anything, or the current version of Liverpool sort of buying somebody for the sake of it. So it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't buy anybody. But then it wouldn't surprise me if they signed somebody we've never heard of, or at the very least haven't been linked with. I think they're so hard to predict. Nobody saw Jota coming particularly, even if Paul had a little sort of inkling or inside word about it or whatever. But, you know, it wasn't on the sort of wider radar and stuff like that. So I think it's hard to tell. But, I mean, from my sort of point of view, yeah, I don't even think we necessarily need to buy anybody. I think the guys that they've got are doing a good job. I
think the one thing that concerns me is the fitness records of Matip and Fabinho, particularly Matip. You know, they're fine when they're there. I'm quite happy with them. But, you know, if we lose one or both, even for a short period of time, we're then left with two untried-ish centre-backs in Phillips and Reece Williams. And unless we start shuffling people like Henderson, Wijnaldum back there. But that then depletes an already depleted midfield. So, you know, you solve one problem and cause another, you know. So that would be my only issue. If I felt really confident that Matip and Fabinho would sort of see it through from here on in, all things being well, you know, I'd feel less inclined to look in January. But I just feel that both, say particularly Joel Matip, are risks, you know.
Joe Matip is definitely a risk with his.
And how does it look when one or both of those are out, and you're up against you know, United or City or, you know, whoever, you know? I think that they can fill in alongside an experienced player for a game or two here and there and do a good job, but it's a different matter being the main partnership for a protracted period. I think that's a different matter altogether. So, to me, that would be the argument for shopping in January for a centre back, so that you've got at least three, and you know, hopefully there's going to come a point where we can put Fabinho back where he belongs. Well, please discuss. But
where does he belong?
Yeah. Where does he belong? He came as a right back, didn't he? Well, he played right back a lot for Monaco.
Interestingly, our record since Van Dijk got injured is we haven't conceded more than one goal in the Premier League.
No liability that Van Dijk.
We conceded 3, kept a clean sheet at Chelsea, 1 against Arsenal, 7 against Villa, and then I guess he wasn't involved in all the goals in the Everton game. But since then, we haven't conceded more than 1 in the Premier League. It's interesting, isn't it? Especially with all the changes.
Yeah, I was figuring out all the centre-back partnerships earlier, just trying to keep on top of it. So I've got it clear in my head if I need it for an article or whatever. And there's been 14 different partnerships so far for at least part of a game. And Gomez and Van Dijk are responsible, in inverted commas, for 10 of the 25 goals in all competitions were Gomez and Van Dijk, which is theoretically the sort of premium partnership, isn't it? But obviously half of that, I think, was at Villa, if I remember rightly. But even so, they've sort of had 10 goals against. Fabinho and Matip, 5 games, only 1 goal conceded. And without checking, that was probably a penalty. So, I mean, we've got better since Van Dijk got injured, which I can only assume we're sort of playing deeper. We're defending more deeply or something. I mean, it's a tough thing to measure to be sort of sure about that. But it can't be that, you know, Van Dijk's the worst and the others have sort of done better without him. It can't be that.
No.
It has got better, as Dan says, for whatever reason.
Well, I make that 22 games this season, just in a quick calculation. So that's 14 combinations in 22 games.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, because that's including, you've got things like Fabinho and Henderson was the second half at Fulham. You've got Williams and Cometio second half against Midtjylland. Fabinho and Phillips, I think, was Brighton, but I can't remember. I mean, there's 6 of the 14 combinations have only appeared together once for no more than one game. Interestingly, like Matip and Van Dijk, 11 minutes before he went off injured at Everton, because again, you'd think that that's potentially the first choice partnership. And
it was last season, wasn't it? It started out as the first last year. They were the start partnership last season until Matip got injured at, I think, Sheffield United. And he probably outshone Van Dijk up to that point.
And that's the Champions League winning partnership, isn't it? Matip and Van Dijk, because Gomez missed most of that season, or the second half of that season anyway. So I mean, that's like Champions League winning sort of centre back partnership, and got 11 minutes out of them.
Yeah.
Abhi,
I wasn't going to mention Pickford tonight. Anyway, carry on.
We almost got through without. No, we got about 10 minutes in without. But,
Good run.
Abhi, let's go to the Spurs game. I think that's the one that we'll start with chronologically. And there was all the Mourinho nonsense beforehand. His injury rant, let's call it that, where he was claiming that we hadn't had an injury crisis and we had a lot of starters. And I guess he was right, because if you look at the team that started against Spurs, virtually there's only 2 players that weren't in that Champions League winning side. So what did you make of it? Because obviously we went 1-0 up.
But Mourinho, it's like a complete entertainment package you're gonna get. Like I was the other day, I was watching on YouTube. I was watching his press conferences after he spoke. After he listed down all the 11 players of Liverpool in that press conference, I was listening down. You look at it, his first press conference with Chelsea, he loves sound bites. Like, I'm the special one. Like, you think I'm arrogant, whatever it is, I'm the special one. And then he did the same thing again and again. But then after a period in time, went to Real Madrid, did the same thing, and fell out with a lot of players as well. Blaming referees, blaming, I don't know, God knows what else he had, like issues with everyone else. And he does this siege mentality where he says that, everything else against us, it works most of the times, but with big clubs, it doesn't. And now he's in a position after, if you look at it, I've watched the Amazon Prime documentary. You can't have a continuous ongoing movie marathon saga in a football, right? And he treats all of his press conferences as if he's out there to set an agenda. He also posted on the stat about something about 300 games of 400 games of Klopp at Liverpool, something of that sort. And now they're like winning titles and in like top 2, top 3. And Spurs, I'm 100 odd games and I'm right there in the mix of it. So he's talking about the development of like Spurs in a short period in time. He always is looking for a headline, and the journalists basically are looking forward to it. They're going to ask him questions about it, and they're looking for that soundbite. It fills up the papers. Everyone's happy. He does make a point about it, but he misses the point completely. That there's no buffer. If you call about a buffer in terms of the squad, that you have to rotate, you have to share the load across the whole squad. We haven't got that option. I mean, you have a player who comes in for a match, gets injured again, like Keita. He's been in and out so much that I feel, it seems like a rare phenomenon when he's part of the playing squad. But that's how it is this season. You don't have
as well
with all the players and like them dropping in because of COVID. And there was another interesting thing, like our players travel, like Firmino and Fabinho. I don't even think he was used in the Brazil squad. They travel, I think, thousands of kilometers to go to Brazil, play a meaningless friendly in Peru, and then they came back. I mean, that is the situation that we have this season. And Mourinho just had headliners. He loves all of that stuff, and he will talk it. It's part truth. It's part nonsense. I mean, if you're up for it, you lap it around he's right, but that's not the complete story. And he loves all these sound bites, so he's going to go with it. And look at the end of the match. It's the same thing with him. Like he's saying, best team lost. The other day, I was looking at B's tweeted the other day, in the space of 91 minutes, Spurs went from title contenders in from second. Now they're out of top 4. So football is for Spurs, it's sand shifting in the desert. Like there's a blow of the wind and they're just gone. So you can have all these sound bites, you can have all of this. But then at the end of the day, there is also other things at play. So yeah, I mean, it's a complete TV package. I mean, the media loves him, and Mourinho is like the star attraction. And that's what the Spurs players say when he gets first nominated, right? Like they are there in the canteen and there's a camera in the documentary. They're like, there's more coverage about the guy than the club. And that's surprising. The man is more bigger than the club. How can that be? So yeah. That comes with Mourinho.
Chris, did the best team lose?
No, they did not. If you looked at the stats after the game, that was a pretty clear, compelling story. and they don't usually lie. You know, it was an absolute battering in terms of everything except XG.
Big chances.
Yeah. But I guess if one side sits back and gets every man behind the ball, it's likely that you find it harder to create clear chances than a team that plays on the break and finds an exposed team when it does break, because it's in your half most of it, you know. So I think that tends to almost automatically follow a game like that. That the side that's penned in or decides to pen itself in will, when it makes a chance, and when it's a good enough side to do so, which Spurs undoubtedly are, that's that's the impact it will have in terms of the stats. But all the other stats, the shots on target, the corners, the possession, the passes made in the other half, passes made in the final third was ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just ridiculous, the difference.
I'm sure Bees has got that.
I'm sure he has.
I haven't got it to mind, but I know Curtis Jones completed more opposition half passes than Tottenham did, which
there you go.
Which says it all, really. I think, sort of to add to what Chris said, really, I think, I don't think the best team lost. I think you could claim the team that had the best chances lost, possibly, because Tottenham had those clear-cut chances and things like that. But I think Liverpool had 11 shots on target, if I remember rightly. And you can't claim that your defensive plan has worked well if the other team's having 11 shots on target. And I think sort of 9 or 10 of them from memory, they were in the box as well. And James York from StatsBomb was saying how Tottenham basically allow about one of those per game. And then Liverpool had 8 or 9 or 10, whatever it was. So, I think with better finishing in the first half, I think Liverpool would have been home and dry with the amount of shots on target in the box they had, but they weren't. And then obviously Spurs had their good chances and could have won. I don't think it would have been entirely unjust if they would have won, but it's a bit of a stretch to say definitively that the best team lost. I'd also say that.
Yeah, I had a text message from a Spurs fan with about a minute to go, saying I'd take the draw. And I was about to reply, your manager would have taken it from the kickoff. But I didn't have time because Firmino scored. So I just sent back saying, I bet you will. And you've got 30 seconds to get your equaliser. I got an abusive message back, which I had to berate him upon. And I don't know where you've got this example of bad losing. I don't know where you've got who's setting the example for you, but maybe it's just in your club. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I just got a bit of tap, but we fed up with losing to Scousers all the time. I've got all sorts of him. He does live up here, but he's actually a South London boy. So it's unusual for Spurs. He sort of comes from Streatham, I think, or something like that. But he's a Spurs fanatic. He's the first person I met up here, actually, when I moved up here. And there's a Liverpool game with Benitez on. When Benitez was manager, he walked into the pub and immediately started berating Benitez and saying, "What's that cretin doing managing a club like Liverpool?" or something like that.
Wow. And
we immediately started out with a row, and nose to nose. No, I'm not having that off anybody, stranger or otherwise. And since then we've been good friends. But I'll take the draw with a minute to go. I'd say we'd scored before I could even reply. It was that soon to Firmino's goal, and so I just sent one back saying, "I bet you will."
It's strange. I've got two or three friends that friendship started out with some kind of a row about football. It's weird that it's weird.
Yeah.
But you get to know each other straight away, really, don't you?
You do, yeah. Straight in, I think he realised I wasn't going to, just sit there and meekly take it, which I think he's one of those sort of people who will bully if people accept it,
Yeah.
Although I didn't know that at the time, but he yeah, he was deeply upset. He was obviously excited about the game. He kept sending me texts on the Monday and the Tuesday. I said, "Well, it's not such a big deal, mate. It's just Well, whoever wins will only be 3 points ahead with 75 still to play for. It's not a decider.
Is it a must win?
Well, it was for him, he said. But I think it's just Tottenham being top of the league is kind of, well, he's about 42, so he hasn't really seen much of that, has he?
He's never seen them win the league.
He hasn't, no. Then they're black and white, when it's 61, was it last time?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dear.
I bet you remind him of that, not year, quite regularly, Chris.
It has cropped up in conversation. I was going on about the marvel of Culotelli and stuff, and
I bet. Let's move on from the Spurs game and to the more recent one when finishing definitely wasn't the issue. I'm going to start by saying, which was your favourite finish? Because you got plenty of choice.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I think for me, it's a close call between the Firmino goal, the counter-attack goal, and the Salah goal. The seventh goal and the third goal, I think. But I'll go with the seventh one because Mo Salah left foot outside of the box. He's done it, I think 4 or 5 times. I remember the Roma one, which was like amazing. The Everton one was amazing. I think that was just inside the box. And the Chelsea one was like, wow, that was a rocket. I mean, nothing beats that. But this one was like, this one was like really good. I mean, the way he comes in and he reminds me of Robin somehow, Everyone knows Robin when he goes on the left foot, he's going to look for that angle, he's going to shoot, and he's going to score. The same thing with Salah, he just comes onto the left foot and he's going to shoot, he's going to take a shot, and you can't do anything about it. And the moment it goes in, like, you should look at the reaction, like, like all of the other Crystal Palace players, they know that, oh, it's gone, like they can't do nothing. And I think Guetta like tries to he dives and all of that stuff, but it's gone. It's top corner, left foot. I mean, it's amazing. Like I really love that goal.
It's a good choice. Tough to beat that finish, Bees.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm going to go for the Minamino one just to be slightly different because it was just great to see him score that goal. But I also like the way I think a lot of players would have taken the shot immediately, but he just sort of knocked it past the defender and then took the shot. So the finish itself was fairly routine, but just what he did sort of prior to that, I think was really impressive. And obviously he's been at the club for about a year and that was his first league goal. So it's sort of, Salah scores those sorts of goals all the time, but as great as they are. But I think for Minamino to do that, particularly in like the first 5 minutes or whatever time it was, of a rare start in the league was sort of important for him, and it was a great piece of footwork for the goal. So I'll pick that. I think. Did you ask about assist as well?
Yeah, give me a best assist in this game because there was some good ones in this one as well. Oh, pre-assist because there was some good ones to them.
Well, there was. Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to pick the best move, I think it's Firmino's goal for 3-0 is probably the best move. I think most people would probably agree with that. In terms of the assist, I think it was it Salah's assist for Firmino's second?
Yeah.
That was a very good one. I think the actual, if we're talking assist passes, I'll have that as my favourite, I think.
On the counter?
Yes.
So that's my favourite finish, the dink.
Okay.
And my favourite goal was the one that Abby touched on, the Firmino one. I think just after, who was it, Van Aanholt, who was squared up to Trent, and then Trent wins the ball back, does a little dink pass to Firmino, who's about 10 yards outside his own penalty box, and then suddenly he spreads it to Robbo, and by the time Robbo makes the pass rather than cross, it looked like a pass. Firmino's there and he's got Velcro boots and it just puts it into the perfect position for him to do the outside of the boot finish. Chris, which is yours? I know we've probably taken them all.
Yeah. First of all, I thought the Minamino finish was, I think it was a really, really crisp finish.
Yeah,
it was just. I thought it was an excellent piece of finishing, but the third goal for me, a little bit like the Salah header against City in that sense. It was a sort of sweeping move and in from Robbo, but it's that first touch from Firmino that that makes it for me. That first touch that just completely, instantly under control, and it's gone from a almost impossible situation to almost can't miss.
Yeah,
just through a touch, basically. And then the way he just finished it nonchalantly, almost not looking again, with the outside of his foot, just rolled it in. Just everything about it was just sweet, to be honest. It wasn't exciting in the way that Firmino's winning goal against Spurs was, because
No.
obviously, this was like just a show. It didn't have the tension once certainly by half time it didn't. It was tense when it was 1-0, but once we'd got 2 and then 3 up, it was just a case of sit back and watch the parade. But that third goal was quite something. It's just the transfer of momentum of the ball, the speed that it was pinged across, and the way it was just converted into just sitting there and just begging in the space of a touch of somebody who's running at full speed at the time. By the way, I couldn't do that just standing still. With nobody else on the pitch, so to actually have started the thing off, run 70 odd yards to be on the other end of it, and then just to kill a ball so perfectly, that's moving sharply and across you, which is difficult, much more difficult. Something Paul often says, and if you played football, you know what it's like. If the ball's pinged hard across you, it's much harder. Than if it's through or at an angle. When it just comes straight across into your path, it's quite hard to control it like that.
Yeah. If you've got the ball in front of you, you can just knock it and then take a perfect technical approach to the ball. Whereas if someone's kicking a ball across you, you have to, all your body angles have to be right, your timing has to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
All sorts of different things going on.
So for me, it was that. I wouldn't decry the choice of the 7th goal either. That was pretty. He hasn't done that for a little while. He used to be his trademark, didn't it? Really, and then he seems to have sort of not the last season or so. I don't think there's been quite so many of those, but it was nice to see it back again.
It's nice when that's a trademark.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Imagine. But it was just so beautifully curled that as soon as it left his foot, there was no real need to carry on watching. You knew where that was going. It's just lovely.
It was also the first time, Bees, wasn't it, that someone's come on as a sub and got 2 goals and assist?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, it's also the first time that the established front three, have all scored and all assisted in the same game. First time it's ever happened.
No way.
Oh wow.
Obviously, you tend to need quite a lot of goals to make that happen, unless they all assist each other one each. That'd be a bit convenient. But even that's 3. But yeah, first time. I think it's like the 13th time they've all scored in the same game. But first one where they've all scored and all assisted, and they didn't even play the whole game, any of them either as well. I mean, 165 minutes between them, I think it was.
Wow.
Out of a possible 270, obviously. And to all score and assist within that is just ridiculous. Probably won't happen again. But glad that I did. Just on that last Salah goal, it reminded me, he did a similar sort of finish against Atalanta this season, albeit from closer in, but it was that way of sort of cutting back and into the top corner. With that third goal as well, I wasn't expecting the brilliant touch from Firmino, but as it's unfolding, you just think, if Robertson gets this pass right, we're going to score. It was just a classic sort of. Well,
it's a classic.
Classic current Liverpool sort of goal.
Yeah,
that break and like you say, like the Man City goal last season, very similar to that. But you just think, if Robertson gets this right, we're almost certainly going to score, and so it proved. So brilliant.
It did. Abhi, I was just thinking, I mentioned it in my post-match. It was like the perfect match. If all the things you wanted to happen and going into this game happened, you 7 past Hodgson, but the Mane goal, he needed a goal. Minamino needed a goal. It was huge, wasn't it, Abhi?
Yeah, I think, for no one thought that this would be like making a statement to the rest of the league. We've had like injuries, we have had decisions go against us with VAR. We've got referees, we've got opposition players assaulting our players and getting away with it. And just before Christmas, within 2 games, we're like top of the league again. It just feels surreal, I mean, like a month back, if you'd asked me, we were still like play catching with the rest of the sides, and then we just come out here and make a statement, which is 7-0, and it's like amazing that what this team can do. Like, and plus you got like Ox coming back, which is quite amazing. He also assisted Salah's goal, which is a nice thing. But like, getting that one midfielder, one player at a time, and then Thiago's back, which is like quite amazing. If
I can train in, let's touch wood.
Yeah. I mean, like Thiago's back. I mean, the Germans were basically, before Thiago was going to join us, like some folks were saying that Liverpool will walk the league if Thiago joins Liverpool, and I know like it's like it was bad timing. He was out and all that, and he got COVID as well. But if he's back and if he stays fit for the next 4 or 5 months, I don't see it as a chance that we would be. I mean, it would if we might run away with the league again, and it just feels like it because the same thing happened last season as well. It's just that December becomes a month where we just crush games, and this wasn't possible like 3-4 seasons back. I remember the first full season of Klopp against Swansea when we lost 3-2 at home, and we were exhausted, and we have come so far away from that in terms of fitness, managing our players. And even with all that this season has thrown against us, that's quite a statement, And I was reading, like, I think it was Jonathan Wilson's article on this, and he was saying that, if this team can overcome all of that's been thrown against them, which the rest of the league combined has not faced, I mean, they could really walk over the rest of them with the fixture list. I mean, it's still RPI. The first thing I saw was like, United have a game in hand, and if they win that, they're going to be like 2 points close to us. Their title challenges. And I just went to Terry Dolan's website and I saw what's the RPI index. Like, we're still number one, and that's amazing. Like, we're still number one and we're top of the league as well. So it just gets easier. Like, touch wood, it should get easier for us.
It should. Definitely. Chris, 538. I know you might have seen it on my post-match again, but 538 still have Man City as favourites, just about 42 to 39%.
Yeah.
Don't
they? Yeah.
Can you see anything in that? Because you mentioned you think Man United might be the closest.
I think probably when it comes to it, I think City probably will be our closest challengers. How close is another matter, but I don't think United will be too far off it. But I'll still say City will probably be the ones to beat.
Will we beat them?
Why they're made favourites, I'm still not sure. I don't know if you've seen Mark Lawrenson's table, by the way, based on his predictions this season. I think we're about sixth.
Really?
United are top, City is second, or something like that. It's Chelsea, I don't know, third. We're well down,
That's interesting, because I read an article about Mark Lawrenson, and apparently he didn't predict that we would lose for about 4 years.
Well, he must predict a lot of draws, I think. But he just assumes City will win sort of 6-0 every game, pretty much. If you actually see, he gives his appraisal and then a score prediction for each game. And it's years since he didn't predict City to win it, against anyone.
Really?
Yeah. So I would expect 538 to have more science behind it than Lawrenson. But,
so we've been the Mark Lawrenson Invincibles for 4 years, but not won any of the leagues because we're drawing so many.
Yeah. It's a parallel universe. It's almost like it didn't happen. But yeah.
What do you think to City? What do you think to City if you think they're going to be?
I do think that they seem to be a bit tougher defensively at the moment. Whether it's the return of John Stones, I don't know, or how good this Diaz is proving to be alongside him. He looks a pretty good player. The fact is, Laporte's not getting in now, who was their mainstay and the main reason for their wailing and gnashing of teeth last season through their injury ill look was basically because Laporte was missing. And now he's not even picked when he is fit, 6 months later. So, but they do seem to have. They were quite obdurate at Southampton.
They were.
I think a City even earlier this season would probably have dropped a point there, or maybe more. But they a 1-0 away isn't a City thing to do, or hasn't been. So they do seem a touch more obdurate, but against that,
we had the final half an hour against us, didn't we? That was absolutely obdurate for both sides. There's nothing happened really.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Having said that, I still don't think they're at the level they were, 2 years ago when they really were on the top and when they had the 100-point season. I don't think they're that.
No,
But
I agree.
they're good enough to keep some pressure on, but we're good enough to withstand it. So.
Bees, who do you think's the nearest challenger?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it does seem natural to sort of say that it's likely to be City, but then they're just not really making up. Now that Liverpool have sort of got their form largely together, they're not making up much ground. Like if you say, like Liverpool are currently on track to get 84 points per game average. So if you say that you need 85 points to win it on that basis, Man City need to be going at 94-point form for the rest of the season to get to 85, if you see what I mean. Like they have to be, as if they were going to finish on 94, they have to be that good to even get to 85, even with the game in hand and stuff. So they just don't look really sort of capable of doing that at the moment. I think their big issue, at least based on the stats, is their finishing. You look at their XG, at least from 538, they've conceded 12 goals from 12.6 XG. Well, that's sort of fair enough. That's about right. But then 25.7 XG going forward, and they've only scored 19 goals. And obviously those missing 7 goals, obviously you can't pick when they come along. But I mean, just most recently they had the chances to beat West Brom and only had a 1-1 draw, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think they are the best other team in the league, but I think they're a long way behind and it's going to be very difficult for them to make that up, particularly as they only play Liverpool once. Obviously, they might win at Anfield for the first time in about 100 years. It's got to happen eventually. But, even if they win that, that's only sort of 3 points they make up. They've got a lot of ground to make up, and Liverpool look to have, got their act together. But obviously, kind of as we alluded to earlier, it all sort of looks reasonably good for Liverpool at the moment. But then, if Fabinho and Matip get injured, we're doing incredibly well as it is, but it would take an incredible effort to win the league if we're playing Phillips and Williams every week or whatever
together.
So yeah, I think Man City probably are the sort of probably the second strongest team, but they've given themselves a lot to do. Chelsea have still barely beat anybody in the top half. I think they beat West Ham, who I think might be in the top half, but if that's it, that's their first win against
just 10th.
They're 10th, right? So that's the highest placed team they've beaten in the league this season. So that doesn't really suggest that Chelsea can do it. Tottenham are massively overperforming against their stats, and they're sort of gone from being, well, as we said earlier, again, they've gone from being level to 6 points behind in the space of about an hour and a half of football. with an 11 goal difference swing as well, which is lovely to see. So, I mean, in terms of like position and everything,
I wish you were interviewing Mourinho on his next press conference, please.
Oh, wouldn't that be good?
Fire those at him.
I'd ask him why he had to point out Klopp shouldn't have won Coach of the Year when Klopp said he shouldn't have won Coach of the Year. What was that trying to achieve? But in terms of the league, I mean, it probably is Man United who are arguably the strongest threat. And that seems ridiculous because as much as they've won every away game, they've gone behind in every away game, I think, or they certainly had.
They have.
And you just think it's not possible. But then you look at their players and you think, yeah, okay, I mean, they should be winning the majority of their games with the players they've got. It's just, can they do it in the big games that make the difference? I think Liverpool have been comfortably the best team in the Big Six mini league over the last couple of years, and if it is going to be tight at the top as it looks like, it's those games which it may be one of those seasons where the sort of mini league at the top determines who wins the league.
You've not even mentioned Leicester.
No, I haven't, have I, to be fair? And
they're second.
Yeah, they're another team. I think they're a bit like United, aren't they? They do very well in their away games, and their home record has been a bit sticky. I mean, At least Liverpool do it the traditional way of being good at home and a bit iffy on the road this season. But I don't know, it's hard with Leicester, isn't it? Because they started last season just as well. And then as soon as they lost to Liverpool, they barely won another game all season. I mean, you'd think they'd be better this time around. But it's hard to see, isn't it? I think. So in conclusion, Liverpool to easily win the league. I think that's the only logical outcome, isn't it? Let's be
Right.
honest.
Need some point spreads. I'm going to start with you, Abby. Come to you straight away. How many points are we going to win the league by? Just to cheer up all the subscribers before Christmas. It's been the shittest year of all time.
It has.
The shittest year of all time, and we've won the league. What a ridiculous
I know.
paradox.
I know.
Anyway, Abby, go on. Point spread. How many points we're going to win it by?
I think 84. I think it's going to be the low. Yeah, 84.
How many points we're going to win by?
Oh, by. Sorry.
The margin to the next team.
6. I think 6.
6. Good. That was mine. Okay, Chris.
Oh, you've all had 6, have you? Okay. I'll go for. It's going to be that region.
Higher or lower?
I'll say
it's
higher.
a game show. Higher or lower?
I'll say higher. I'll say 7 or 8.
And Bees, you've got the model. You must have a model.
Well, I mean, if you go on the points per game, then it'll be 8.
There we go.
So, I mean, I guess that that certainly sounds plausible. I think all these things, though, are so sort of up in the air. If we're still in the Champions League, then who knows? You know, that inevitably takes its toll. If we are still in that, very hard to get a high points total and go far in the Champions League. We're the team that have done it better than anyone when we finished second in the league and won the Champions League. But it is very hard to do both. So I'm confident we'll win the league, but I think 8 points is the maximum it's going to be. It wouldn't surprise me if it was less than that this year.
And finally, before we go, like I just said, it has been a terrible year for most people. But Chris, what's been your highlight of this 2020 season? Well, 12 months.
Let me think.
12 months.
Anything happened this year that's memorable?
Which is the best moment, though? The best moment, and it has to be in 2020.
Blimey.
Was it when Man City lost to Chelsea, and that's the moment we confirmed, or was it watching the?
Yeah, it was pretty good. The moment when there was both a penalty to Chelsea and a sending off. So even if they missed a penalty, it's unlikely they're going to win this now. You know, it's 1-1 at the time, wasn't it? So that would have done.
You've been espousing the fact that we'd won the league before even lockdown restarted.
Yeah. Yeah, we had, hadn't we? And we did, actually, as it turned out. But so
like the Man United.
It's not the same as the actual moment, though, is it? It's not the same as the actual moment.
I thought the Man United game when everyone was singing, we're going to win the league. That like.
I was in the cop that day.
Fans were there. Yeah, you were one of them.
Some were, well, some didn't. Some were saying, "This is madness. This is madness." You know,
which I love.
Yeah, most were sort of
the innate anxiety of a football.
Most were standing on chairs punching the air, but 1 or 2 were saying, premature, getting ahead of ourselves here, you know. Bloody hell, how long do we have to wait? You know? So yeah, it's got to be in it. I probably my pathetic attempt to celebrate with pyro as well was pretty memorable, but only in a local way.
Chris's pyro.
Yeah, very poor, very poor. I'll be better next time.
And there will be a next time.
Yeah, I know what to do now.
Abhi, what's been your highlight, your moment of 2020?
Well, I think the next morning when I woke up and I was like looking at, like you wake up the next morning, right? So it was like late night when I watched the City Chelsea game, and I didn't sleep till like I think 4 o'clock, and then I woke up at 8 or 9 o'clock. And it almost confirmed that, Liverpool will win the league. And the next match, basically, when we played against, I think, Palace. I think it was Palace, I think. Yeah. We won 5-0, I guess. And Fabinho scored one of his rocket goals. And just confirmed that.
4-0, yeah.
Yeah, 4-0, sorry, yeah. So he scored one of his rocket goals. And, that night and the subsequent morning, like this City Chelsea was good, but like subsequent morning, I just like was looking at all the websites across the world. Usually, I have I mark all the famous publications, the most read publications across countries, regions. I like looking at that from time to time, and the amount of coverage that you could see across the world, from Japan to like Latin America to Africa to North America and India, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. I mean, I spent like 1.5 hours just reading and trying to read like content in different languages translated to like English.
Amazing.
And it just gives you a sense of pride of like the massive, people say, you know, players sometimes say that, you know, oh, it's a massive club. But when you read and like, when you see all of the celebrations that were going around, there were celebrations somewhere in Indonesia where kids were celebrating and all that. And there were fireworks, not just in Anfield and everywhere else. It just brought back memories when we won the Champions League the 6th time, the celebrations across the world.
Yeah, that video that went viral was just like,
yeah.
There was
some place in Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar. They were like supporters
Ulaanbaatar, yeah.
going crazy, and I was like, oh my god, like I don't even know that, because I was once part of the official Liverpool supporters club in Delhi. I was part of the group, and we used to host people at venues, matches. There were one of the games in 2013-14 season. There were like 300 folks in a place that only can get around about 60, 70 people. There were 200, 300 people.
That was pre-COVID, I hope.
Pre-social distancing, yeah. There is one other moment I would mention actually this year. It was the first night the Fox and Goose was open after the first lockdown.
Oh, well.
Second, it's coming second.
We've all got one of them.
But yeah, it was quite something. We had a bit of a wait, haven't we, for that, and for it to happen in such
still waiting, really
bizarre, in such bizarre circumstances. You know, I felt sorry for like the sons of one or two of the lads that I've been going with since the 70s, who are still waiting to have what their dads have had, basically. Yeah. And now that it's come, they still haven't. You know, I kind of feel for them. Graham was the godfather to him, for goodness sake. But my mate Pete's lad, and Graham is now in his 20s, and he's heard us nattering on for hours, and he said, "Well, I can't wait for when my turn comes," and it's kind of come. He's kind of missed it, He hasn't, so I feel a bit for them. We have all seen it, but they haven't, and I just hope that the next one is going to be witnessed by them. He's waiting to go mental, basically, and he's kind of keeping it in.
Yeah, that's it. It's just, that's a reflection that so many people around the world who have been supporting Liverpool for 29 years will be having, isn't it? So, Bees, what was your highlight?
Well, if we could just pause the recording, I'll go and fetch my Only Connect trophy and and I'll hold them up. Just give me a minute, I'll go and get them. That's some.
Are you literally one of the only people in the world that could come up with that? Is amazing.
It's a very small number of people. Yeah.
There's not many who've won Only Connect and published a book in the same year, I shouldn't think, but I have managed to do that. So obviously, if you're watching or listening to this, buy my book From 18 to 19 on Amazon. Thank you. They're on a sort of personal level, I guess they're the highlights. I mean, I think on the pitch for Liverpool, it probably is that Man United game, I think, isn't it? It's probably the best of 2020. Because from then onwards, it was kind of a bit of a grind in the league, and obviously then behind closed doors and all these sorts of things. So, I think the United game was probably the best thing on the pitch for Liverpool. I think Atalanta as well was a lot of fun this season. I think as well, not that I was there or anything like that, but the first game at Anfield with fans back just felt, great. And I know it's only 2,000 fans.
Huge.
Probably nobody, maybe not anybody listening to this was there. And it's 2,000 in a ground that holds 55, 56, whatever it is. But just for people to be there was just brilliant. And the team won because they were at home and they always win. And then Klopp goes and does his sort of fist action at the Kop end at the end. And it's obviously not the same as celebrating winning the league, but it was just a tiny sort of sliver of that.
Connection.
And I got quite emotional, which
the connection
kind of strange. Yeah, quite emotional about it because it just sort of felt like just a shred of sort of normality creeping into life. And then, of course, now we've been put in a tier 4 lockdown and whatever else is going on. So, it's all gone a bit wrong again. So I don't know if fans are still allowed at Liverpool games or not. But,
They are.
They are. Okay, that's
Liverpool
good.
and Everton, the only two clubs left.
Okay, well that's good.
Southampton.
Just
maybe Southampton. Yeah, true.
We could probably all sit here for about an hour and talk about this year, the year in which Liverpool won the league, and nobody really got to celebrate it. But those certainly the moments that I think have probably meant the most to me this year, definitely.
Weirdly, I enjoyed the Fulham fans.
Okay.
When Liverpool played them, it was enjoyable hearing fans, and Fulham fans are traditionally some of the most polite. But it was just good to just hear that when you're an away team, that kind of different
bit of animosity.
Yeah, it's just interesting, and what you watch football for, and what we've not had for so long. Chris, anything to add there? Because that's so true, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. I think if lockdown taught us anything in football terms, it's what impact fans have on a game, and on the overall experience. A full ground for the TV viewers, for the atmosphere, for the players. Somebody made the point on the site that maybe the lack of fans actually allows some players who can't quite hack it so well when they're under the pressure of a crowd are sort of freed of that sort of constraint in what is pretty much a glorified practice game. And so the actual mental makeup of players is different when the fans are absent. You're not under that pressure, particularly as the away side, but a home side as well. If a crowd's getting onto you, so the players themselves are having it's a slightly different experience. But we've got VAR instead, so it's always nice to have company.
You nearly went a whole podcast.
I tried. It's not the subject of this podcast, okay? But yeah, going back to the crowds, I think this really ought to have cemented in the minds of football clubs and football club owners how important they are. So stop with your Friday night kickoff times and Monday nights, will you? When we come back, can you just remember we've got to get there and get back somehow?
So true. Especially
you try getting to Brighton for 12 o'clock on a Saturday.
Getting back from Liverpool on an evening game is impossible.
You can't. Yeah, I'm certainly in London. You and the south. You've got to build in overnight stops if you're travelling, as though it wasn't expensive enough already. You've got to book a night's bed and breakfast and that. So by the time you finish, you're looking at £400 or £500 for an away game that's in a far-flung part of the country. And if you
tell us what it was like in the 80s when we were winning the league, how much an away day cost relative. If you can
remember.
Apply TPI, can you apply TPI to your costs? But wasn't it just a coach there, and then you pay for the ticket and the beers, and then you come home?
Yeah, pretty much. Just get on usually we went in someone's car. Some poor sap had to drive and not drink all day. But we sort of alternated it, so there'd be 5 in their car, say, and 4 were absolutely, the other one just sat there drinking no alcohol lager like Caliber or something. But yeah, we went everywhere. And you'd sort of decide Saturday morning, so you get a phone call at 8 o'clock, not long been in, and the phone would go, fancy going to Ipswich? We're going to have to leave in an hour, go on. And so you just decide and just go. It's just great. Just share the petrol between 5 of you, Match was probably, when I started, it was a couple of quid, So, your day out all in with, 15 quid, something like that, 12, 15 quid. Depending on how much you drank, really. But that was cheap as well, But then so are my earnings. So everything's relative.
Right, it's all relative.
Yeah,
it's not
probably about the same as now,
400 or 500 quid though. That's not.
Still
I don't know how much you're earning then, but that's not.
No, well, I mean now, if I'm saying if Liverpool were away to say Brighton or Southampton or something like that on a Saturday or Sunday, 12 o'clock kickoff or a 5:30 kickoff. There's no way you can do that. And London games, if it's a night game, the last train back from London to Liverpool is about 9 o'clock. Well, there's no game finishes and allows you time to get from wherever ground it is to Euston for 9 o'clock. Not possible. So you've got to stay over. You know, some go on coaches and they travel through the night or leave Liverpool at 3 a.m. and stuff like that. But you know, that's severe, isn't it? You know,
that's the old school.
That's more like joining the Paras. You know, it's you know, but most people like to go, but always did like to go by train. You know, but you know, then kick-offs are 3 o'clock Saturday, so you had time to get there and time to get back.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's the key.
It is, yeah. You're either struggling to get there in time in the morning or struggling to get back at night. You know, if you've got connections as well, which most people have, you know, miss one of those. And I never know whether I'm going to spend the night in Liverpool, Manchester, or my own bed. You know, and I only live 70 miles away.
Yeah, it's Liverpool or Chester for me.
Yeah, yeah. You know, if the Liverpool trains bugger up on a late game, then I'm stopping in Liverpool because there's no point going to Manchester if I've missed the last train from there. Or there's a problem at Manchester, so I have to try and find accommodation there. You know, I'll take a toothbrush to the match. It's ridiculous.
Well, at the moment, you'd probably climb Everest to get into the club, wouldn't you, Chris?
Yeah. I'm waiting for my number to come out. It hasn't yet.
Are you allowed with the L postcode restrictions?
Well, no, that's the main reason. But it's actually registered under a lad in Liverpool. So,
do you want me to edit this bit out?
You can do, but it's been there. It's been there since 1972. So I thought, you know, there must be some sort of ancient squatting rights or something. But it, you know, it's a long shot. They're going to go through. I think each 2,000 that qualifies will be excluded from the next draw, the next ballot. So we're now on the third match, aren't we? West Brom. Yeah. That'll be the third game. So that'll be 6,000 gone. I think there's about 33,000, something like that, 34,000 season tickets.
Oh, it is.
So, you know.
It's kind of get Bees to do an analysis of what the odds are and which game you're likely to get it.
Each time I miss out, I'm more likely next time. I know that much.
Well, we all wish you well, and thanks for all your time. And I hope we all have a better New Year. Although none maybe tops Bees as winning on the Connect.
No, that's quite a thing to that's quite a thing to put on your CV. Oh, sure.
Thanks to Abhi as well for all your work this year, sir.
Absolutely, yeah,
unbelievably good, and I hope you're feeling better after. I think you're the only positive COVID TTT that we've got in the staffings.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. No, I suppose we could have lurkers. We couldn't have positive lurkers that we don't know about.
I don't know. I just meant in the staff, just in the Slack editorial group.
Oh, in that group, yeah.
That we know of, as you say. Who knows, eh?
Yeah.
Well, now we've got the express variety over here. You know.
I think I live in the new hotspot for the country.
You do, don't you? Yeah.
Every chance I've got it, probably.
Someone said Spurs went from 1 to 4 faster than London did.
I nearly fell over my laptop. Oh dear. Well, again,
you got the edit button ready now, have you?
I have, yeah. Thanks, chaps. Cheers. And
thank you, and a good Christmas to everybody.
Happy New Year to you all.
You know, let's hope we're celebrating amongst the masses in May or whenever it finishes.
I hope so, and it'd be amazing if Abhi could get over as well for the parade, because there will be one. We just don't know when.
Oh, there certainly will.
I still got my ticket, so that's been extended till 2021 December. So.
Oh well.
Yeah, like
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
It'll be a big one. There'll be a lot of people there.
Yeah.